Tarek can hear me, right?
Finally.
Oh my gosh, I'm getting messages. Oh goodness. Okay. Whoever was listening before, I hope you stuck around. We're back. We think it's working. We're here with Tarek Merchant of I'm Recruitable to talk about what our kids need to be doing recruiting wise during this crazy COVID-19 pandemic and being stuck at home and not being able to go to campuses and visit in person and not being able to play tournaments and have coaches watch us. Tarek, what's the deal? I'm so flustered. I'm so sorry. This has been a crazy morning, but fill us in on what you're hearing, what you know, and what your best advice is here.
Yeah, sure. Last night I did a really big webinar for over 150 people, which was something I prepared for. I did a lot of research over the last few weeks of like what's going on, talking to different college coaches, trying to do my own, analysis as well. And so like everything right now, the world is shut down. We're in a lockdown mode. And I think the hard part is that everything came to an abrupt end for everybody. So that includes all these student athletes that were playing their spring sports. I was actually talking to Coach Dave Getz, who I run, our summer exposure camps with, and I just happened to call him, and he was on a spring break trip. And he just got down to Orlando, and they were on their way back on a flight the next morning. And next thing you know, that was on a Friday. On the Sunday, that was on a Thursday. On the Friday, a lot of schools announced that they're just going to want everybody out of the dorms and off campus by Sunday night. And then by Monday, it was online school. And this was around mid-March. There's a lot to talk about this. So, I think we need to dissect it, where it's like, okay, where are we at right now? Well, nothing's happening. All our tennis programs are shut down. All the tournaments are shut down. Universities are shut down. There is no NCAA anything going on. So all those current players that are in college right now, they lost their season. And for all those upcoming recruits, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. Some of the things are speculations that we have, and some of them are concrete decisions that have been made, and it's going to drastically affect everybody moving forward.
Absolutely. And I was in on your webinar last night. Great job, by the way. And I also, the NCAA has been doing some live I don't even know how to say it, live tweets or like live streams through their Twitter feed, discussing the medical side of all of this. And those have been very eye-opening and enlightening too. Dr. Brian Hanlane has been, or Hainline, I always say his name wrong, has been talking with Andy Katz and discussing what the face of college sports is even going to look like when we come back from this. And especially, God forbid, if this continues and fall football season is not able to happen, how that's going to impact all of the non-revenue sports, which tennis is one of those, obviously. So, what are you hearing from the coaches? I mean, so far the tennis coaches, I haven't heard of anybody being laid off.
Right. So on the tennis coaches front, the ones that are maybe on a different style of contract hourly, they may or may not be able to keep those jobs. But for the most part, the coaches are taken care of for now, and they are just to do what they need to do from home. So, by talking to some of those coaches, they're having meetings with their athletic, department, whether it's their athletic director or their sports coordinators, and they're asking them, okay, send me a list of what you're going to do this week, and just trying to be the project managers or the business managers and telling them look, just do what you can do. And majority of them are just asked to be recruiting online.
What does that mean though, recruiting online?
Well, they're recruiting using the technologies and the platforms that we have. So, they're doing their research on Universal Tennis Rating. They're doing their research on tennisrecruiting.net. I'm getting a major spike. I mentioned this yesterday, a major spike in the number of college coaches that are using my platform, the I'm Recruitable network, looking for players' profiles and trying to connect with them and see videos and all that stuff. So they're using those platforms because that's all they've got. They don't have the opportunity to go to tournaments and showcases and camps and all those things at the moment. So they are strict, and they're not even dealing with their teams too much. Of course, some of them are still trying to keep in contact with them, but the fact is you're not in season, so you have all the time to recruit, and the only place to go is online.
Well, and what about the current college players who have had their seasons cut short? Let's not even like go to the 5th year eligibility thing yet, because I think we do need to talk about that. But my concern is more for those kids who are home from school. They're completing their classes online, presumably, but they may or may not have access to any type of training facility other than what's in their own home. And what do we say to those kids? They may or may not go back to school in September. They may or may not have a team to go back to. There may or may not be scholarship money available to them. I mean, this is just such an unknown right now.
Yeah, I think that the current players, okay, let's do it like this. The current players, yes, your season was cut short, and it's not fun. It hurts. The seniors that were there, majority of them, in my opinion, are not going to come back to school and take up on that eligibility and all that stuff. I think that everybody is nervous because of the budgets that we're losing.
Right.
That's what you're talking about, which is without the NCAA March Madness revenue, the basketball revenue, that is a reality. The reality is that the money that you're going to end up losing, and the money that's not going to be available, and the money that's already been spent. Let's remember that a lot of these schools, like I was reading several articles over the past few weeks where a lot of programs and a lot of universities have already allocated budgets and spent budgets for not only this spring season, but upcoming things that are happening, whether it's summer or fall. And so the fact that they're not only going to lose millions of dollars, but they've of revenue that they normally will get in, because people need to know that basketball will fund all these programs in these universities. And so if you're not receiving the money that you thought you were going to receive, and you've already spent the money that you have, or a portion of it, now you're in serious crap. Because you're crippled yourself. And so they would have spent that money differently. They are trying to retract everything they can retract, but there's monies that are already gone out into the economy, and everybody's in a tough spot because those other organizations or vendors are also hurting. So it's not like they're just going to say, oh, here's all your money back.
Right.
They're also in a position where they might not have that money to give back to you.
Right.
So it's a huge mess.
I mean, it's a multi-pronged issue happening right now, right? I mean, it's
a domino effect. Everybody is just getting hit, from the seniors all the way down to the 2020 grads that are coming in, to the 2021s, 2022s, potentially, and 2023s. I mean, it's going to be, like I said, I think there's going to be a lot of seniors that won't come back because, for example, spring sports, you're not going to wait the whole year. Not everybody in the sport of tennis, especially men's tennis, is on a full ride where they're just going to want to go and pay. Ivy Leagues, for example, yesterday night, they confirmed this, but I already knew this because the Ivy Leagues changed their rules. Their rule is that nobody who's a graduate student can play. They don't allow graduate students to play.
Right.
They haven't done that for forever. So why would they change it? They made that announcement that they're not going to, which is great. And then on the other side, you have all the Division III kids that are not going to go, and they're not getting athletic scholarships. So I highly doubt that a lot of them are going to go back just to play their tennis season. They're going to move on to their jobs and their career and the other things that happen after tennis.
Yeah. And I mean, we're hearing some announcements of players going back, and I get it that you want to finish what you started, and I understand all that, but it will be interesting to see what happens, especially if football doesn't happen. Hopefully football will happen, and we'll have that funding, and somehow
Well,
the tennis season will.
if football doesn't happen, we're kind of screwed.
Yeah.
I mean, really,
yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to put any, you can't sugarcoat anything.
No.
That's going to then create major, major, major changes, at least for the time being.
Right. Let me just throw out there, those of you who are watching live, if you have questions, if you type them in the comments, we'll do our best to get to them. When you see my eyes darting around, I'm looking at my phone, I'm looking at the screen, trying to stay on top of everything to make sure that we cover everything that y'all are interested in learning about. But Tarek, I guess the big question for high school kids right now that were either just getting ready to start the recruiting process, or maybe we're already well into the recruiting process, is what should they be doing while we are at home, while we can't be out playing tournaments, having lessons, having drills, all of that?
Well, I think that they just need to stay at home and, first of all, take care of themselves and their health. That's number one. So I have a strong opinion on all of this. It's stay at home, take care of yourself, take care of your family. Everybody is at a halt, but sneaking out and playing one match, out at a tennis court or something, or trying to do what you think is a competitive edge, it's not going to get you to Stanford University or Duke or wherever you want to go. Just that little bit of stuff is not going to help you. So what you need to do is just control what you can control, which is I'm at home. I cannot go out and play, but if I do have a hitting wall, I can hit against the wall. If I'm indoors, I can take a spongy ball or anything that I have at home, and I can do some volleying and, be creative. I can do workouts at home and stay in shape and keep myself in good health and stay active. I can work on things that I normally maybe don't have the opportunity to work on. Core strength, body, upper body, lower body, maybe nursing an injury and helping rehab that. Stretching, which was a huge problem for me. So this would have been a great time for people to work on their stretching. They should be doing yoga. They should be doing, a bike, riding on the bike if you have that, a stationary bike at home. You could be doing mind exercises. You should be also, this is something I preach. And so if you were somebody that was listening to me all this time over the last several years, you would know that you would have a lot of video footage, because I ask everyone to take videos of themselves every single time they go out there and play tennis. And so if you've got match footage of practice matches, real tournaments, training, whatever, go and analyze video.
Right.
Nobody really wants to analyze video, but you should be analyzing your video and having an opportunity to track those matches and say, okay, I double faulted X number of times. I had this many aces. I had this many unforced errors. What was I doing? How did this opponent beat me? We could be doing a lot of that tactical stuff. You could be watching videos online. So I think the message here is, it's all about the mindset. And if you have a mindset where you're saying, look, I'm in this situation, it sucks. I can either complain or I can do something about it. And if I want to do something about it, I can do whatever is in my control to better myself. You can read a book on tennis. You can read Agassi's book. You can read Brad Gilbert's book. You can read Paul Anacone's book. You can do so much. And then most importantly, if you're somebody who's going to school very soon, do some college research.
Yeah. And let me just interject that on parentingaces.com, we have a COVID-19 resources page where we are compiling every day. We add to it links of at-home workouts, suggestions for tennis things that you can do at home, suggestions for the coaches out there to engage with their players. I interviewed John O'Sullivan yesterday of Changing the Game Project. He'll be our podcast for next week. And he talks about stuff he's doing with his soccer teams, through platforms like Zoom and FaceTime and like we're doing here. So there is a lot that players can do to stay sharp, to stay fit, to stay ready once the courts are back open for play. But let's talk specifically about the college recruiting piece and connecting with coaches and forming those relationships that are so important usually during college recruiting, right? The
Yeah.
player coach relationship, you work for years to build those as a junior tennis player, and we're really being stifled in terms of figuring out how to stay connected with the coaches, what's allowed, what's not allowed, how the social media, rules are applying during this time. So what can you share with us in that regard?
So there is the NCAA recently extended the dead period to May 31st. So there is no in-person contact. Having said that, we can't go anywhere anyways. So it's probably without say, right?
Right.
Coaches are, as I mentioned, online, and they are able to communicate with student athletes over phone, text, on online platforms, every sort of area of online technology that you can use outside of in-person communication, contact. And so that's where they are. And so we do live in a tech world, and we are, always communicating online more than we are in person anyways. So to me, it stays the same. All it is done is it's magnified because the coaches do not have teams to deal with right now. They don't have trips to go on. They are not preoccupied, which 80% of their time, 90% of their time normally at this time is preoccupied with their own team and travel.
Sure.
They have that extra 80 to 90% time to talk to you, to look at you. So the advice is very simple. You should get your butt online as much as possible to be connecting with these coaches. And that's why I said I'm seeing a massive spike from college coaches, communication towards me and my company, as well as our online platform, because that's where they're at. They are just hungry to look and figure out what's going on with the players, and they want to stay connected. I mentioned yesterday too that different coaches have different situations. So although you may see some coaches be more engaging than others, they're all there doing their job though. That's what they're instructed to do. And so if you don't have your video up, if you're not communicating, if you're not reaching out to coaches, that doesn't mean that you don't reach out, right? Like, let's be clear on that too. Coaches will hopefully reach out, but you need to reach out as always. You need to do everything that's normal that you're supposed to be doing, but it's just magnified 10 times. And this is your opportunity.
Are the contact rules still in place though for the younger players?
Yes. I mean, so you can't still be sitting there communicating with freshmen about scholarships and offering them deals and all that stuff.
The coaches can't, but the players can reach out to the coaches, and if they make that connection, they can have the conversation, correct?
Correct. I mean, there's definitely certain rules within each division and all that stuff that people can look up, because that would take us, another episode, right?
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. As the rules state, if you reach out in certain divisions and stuff, and the coach picks up, they can talk to you. It depends what you can talk and all that. But yes, this is an opportunity for everybody to work within the NCAA rules and get connected. This is your opportunity to get access to coaches far easier than you have ever had before, because they are not busy with other things for the most part.
Can we talk a little bit about the ACT and the SAT and what you're hearing about the requirement to have an ACT or SAT on file with the eligibility center at the NCAA before you can take a visit? Obviously, we're not taking visits right now, but hopefully that's going to change in the next few months. But the tests aren't available right now. So what happens to that kid who was planning to take the SAT or ACT this spring or summer to be ready for official visits in the fall?
Sure, great question. So the June SAT, ACTs are still intact as of now. There is no decision yet. I think everybody is trying to go month by month or week by week,
Day by day, hour by hour.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like I haven't canceled my summer camps that start at the end of June, and that's because we don't know what's going to happen, and there's no need to panic. And so I think the NCAA, the SAT, and ACT June is available as of now. If that does not happen, I would like to think that they're going to move those to July and August and start offering more tests for those students. And if they do, then, and there is enough tests and availability for everyone, then I believe that those rules and regulations that they have in place at the universities will stay intact if they're giving people enough time. But there are going to be different schools with different situations, and that's going to come down to a business decision on the university. If they feel like they normally require students to have certain test scores and eligibility and all that done ahead of time before they come on for visits and all that, then they may waive some of those things if they feel like it's a problem and that they need to fill up, seats or spots at their university. Other universities that maybe have a lineup of people will just stay very strict with their requirements and say, look, you have time to do it and you need to do it. So,
one of the things you talked about last night in your webinar that was really a light bulb went on for me, and I just hadn't thought about this, was those schools who might be lowering their academic requirements as a result of all this because they need bodies on campus when they reopen. They need that income stream. And, we've always touted the importance of academic success and keeping your grades up and doing well on these standardized tests. But our reality may be shifting a little bit. And I don't want to be the person to say, slack off on your schoolwork and don't worry about your grades, because I know firsthand how important that is to keep up with your academics and keep your GPA where it needs to be competitive. But things may be shifting a little bit in that regard too. Can you talk about what you're hearing and maybe share some of the information that you talked about in your webinar yesterday?
Yeah, sure. So that's a loaded question because...
Well, I know, and I hate to even bring it up, but it is something that's coming up in conversation. So we need to just address it.
Yeah, no, I think it's important to address it, and I think it's important for everybody to know what is going on and what to prepare for. So yeah, there's a number of universities out there that are struggling. That's a reality, that are struggling to have enough freshmen every year enrolled into the university. And so prior to COVID-19, they have been trying every which way to amend the rules or requirements that they have to get enough people to join. Now with this situation going on, they're really going to have to bend the rules, and they're really going to have to get people on campus to stay open, to keep the doors open. Then there's the other spectrum of the universities, the Harvards and the Stanfords and the Dukes of the world that have a lineup of people. And so if that line diminishes by a handful or half, they're still going to have a lineup of people, and they don't have to lower any standards or change anything. Then you got all the universities in between, and those universities are going to look to find the easiest outlet to get players on campus and student athletes as well as students. One thing that to keep in mind is there's a lot of schools out there that are very well recognized schools, but still rely on about 40 to 50% of their student body to be student athletes. And the requirements from a lot of those universities are very rigorous. And if people are not able to meet those requirements, they are going to have to lower their standards. They are going to, and that is going to create an opportunity, I believe, for people to go to the schools that they normally could not get into. But I think it's going to come with a price tag. I think it's going to come with people who can afford to pay the full amount of going to that university, or a higher amount. I don't think that scholarship schools are going to worry too much about that unless they have a very, very high standard again. But for the most part, most kids can get into those places. But I think that that's where the standards are going to change, and that there is going to be an opportunity for athletes and even regular students to get into a school that maybe has a requirement of a 30 ACT and drop that down to a 28 and allow more students to join, because I think that people are going to struggle to even get to university.
Well,
With the crisis, parents may
right.
not have the funding either.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say. And I mean, we've for decades talked about, the big disconnect in tennis between the haves and the have-nots. This potentially could widen that divide, which is not a good thing. We certainly want tennis to be accessible to everyone, and we want college tennis to be accessible to everyone. But if university budgets are being cut, which could mean scholarships are being cut, especially in the non-rev sports. We only have 4.5 scholarships for the guys in D1 anyway. And if those aren't fully funded, then it is going to come down to who can pay their own way or find another way to pay for college outside of the athletic scholarship money, right?
Right. There's still so many schools out there that aren't fully funded.
Right.
People listening, with the 4.5 on the D1 side. It doesn't mean that if you're D1, you automatically have the 4.5. So that's an issue. And I think that there may be even further budget cuts for the schools that are fully funded, or maybe have 3 and saying, look, now you're going to have 2.
Mm-hmm.
And what I think that's going to create, on the contrary, is more competition to get in. And I think that, as I mentioned, there's going to be a set of schools and that people are going to be able to get into that normally can't get into. But then on the other side, there's going to be a set of schools that normally you can get into, but you're not going to have that opportunity because the coach is going to look to fill a good roster of players, and they're going to have limitations, and they may not take you normally when they can take you, because you're not going to have the available budgets and stuff to help you.
How is this affecting international recruiting and those junior players outside the U.S. who are trying to come play tennis here?
I don't think it's going to cause any effect differently, because tennis has become the international sport, and coaches are looking to recruit the best players, not just Americans. It may be, this is sensitive, obviously, because if you are an American, I know that you feel like this is your place and you deserve that opportunity. But at the same time, the NCAA and the universities don't always see it that way. They see it as, look, you've got to field the best team. And because you have access to players all around the world, that's how it's going to be. Now, I think the challenge might be, depending on how long this virus goes, if certain countries are further behind the United States in terms of their the health and stuff, some players may not be able to come back. We're seeing what's happening in Europe right now, and if things don't slow down in countries like Spain and Italy and so on, then this could potentially affect some of these student athletes to come back. That's where I see it being an issue. Maybe they can't come back for the ones that are already here, or maybe the ones that are potentially coming in 2020, they can't make it.
Right.
But aside from that, when you talk about like just the general prospects, I don't think that there's a difference between an American and an international.
Well, I mean, what's happening, though, is the coaches obviously don't have international tournaments to travel to see these kids play in person. So the international players are now in the same boat in that they're going to have to rely on electronic means of communications with the college coaches. And, Parenting Aces is out there for every junior tennis player around the world, not just the US. So I just want to be clear that if you have a player and you live in a country outside the US and you want to come play tennis here in college, that you need to be heeding Tarek's advice too, that this advice he's giving is not just for players situated in the US, it's for junior players around the world who are looking to play college tennis.
Yeah, I mean, I'm born and raised in Canada, technically.
Right.
An international. I was an international student athlete. I became American resident not that long ago, so I'm understand that side very well. I have a ton of international kids that use the I'm Recruitable platform and application to get connected with college coaches and share their profiles. What you're doing is amazing, because you are sharing the information that you get from resources like myself and others, and yourself who you put in a lot of work, and they need to understand that they need to be utilizing this more than ever, and everybody does, really. So it's an opportunity. I believe it's an opportunity for everybody. This is a huge opportunity for them to take advantage of what's out there. And you were mentioning that earlier, like, and we talked about what people can do at home. Like, just grab your phone right here and scroll through your Instagram feed, your Facebook feed, your Twitter, whatever you got. Everybody's just posting workouts online and what they're doing during this time and how they're handling it, offering advice and information. If you just spend an hour a day, you will get it. You will have the opportunity. You will figure out what you need to do.
Well, and as you're talking, it's occurring to me that this whole thing could level the playing field in sports like tennis, right? For the kids that maybe didn't have the resources available to them and felt like they were behind the curve, behind the 8 ball. Now we're all in the same boat. Everybody's at home. Nobody can, use their financial resources to get ahead right now. Unless you've got a private court at your house and your private coach is quarantined with you in your house, you're not on the court playing tennis and having instruction live, in real time. And I mean, I guess there are those few that do have that advantage, but for the most part, we're all in the same boat here. And so it's going to come down to getting creative and using what's up here, which we know in tennis, that is a big part of the game. And especially as you get higher up along the food chain in tennis, the differentiators between the winners and the losers typically doesn't come down to the forehand and backhand. It comes down to what's happening between the ears. And so why not use this time to improve that facet of your game and understand that when we come out of this, everybody is in the same boat. The coaches are all in the same boat. The players are all in the same boat. And it's going to come down to how creative you've been able to get during this downtime.
100%. I think it's how you see this situation, glass half empty or half full. The mindset that you have. Tennis and sports, every sport is a mind, is mental once it comes down to you having the skill set. And when you do, you got to figure out how to make it work. There are I'm getting a lot of inquiries from parents, especially, that are talking about, oh, my son or daughter's UTR has dropped 2 points and this and that. And to me, it's like, why are we worrying about this? Like, everybody's UTR is going to drop or whatever happens. I mean, like, where I feel like the disconnect still is, and I want to say this right now at this important time, is that why are we fixated on rankings and ratings and all this stuff? And where I don't understand where the understanding for some reason came about that college coaches are just going to look at a number and then recruit you. And for some reason that message has gone mixed up, and now it's causing massive pandemonium for these families who are trying to help their children get into a university because they think that UTR number, that tennis rating star, is going to define them 100%. Now, it defines you to a certain degree because if you win matches and you beat certain players and you go certain distances in tournaments, that is who you are. That is the level that you're at. If you're in basketball, for example, and you're averaging 25 points a game and you're one of the top leading scorers in your league or in the NBA, then you're that good.
Right.
But, like for some reason we can decide. For some reason we can decide that Roger Federer, Novak Djokovic, and Rafa Nadal are the top 3 players in the world. For the most part, and there's a couple. I think Federer dropped, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
We understand that LeBron James is, and Steph Curry and these guys are the best players. Why? Because we look at the statistics. And so if UTR is looking at the statistics, then that is the statistics. Now, having said that, if you're a 13 UTR and you're looking at someone who's a 12.85, like, you think a coach is just going to overlook you when you're at the level? Where coaches don't want to talk to players is when you're a 9 and they're looking at 12s. There's
Right.
a massive discrepancy there on the level of your game.
Right.
And so at this time, when we're talking, we're looking at it completely the wrong way. Number one is, if your UTR is dropped, I would assume, I haven't done enough research, and I know you know a lot about UTR as well, Lisa, but I would assume that everyone's ratings are dropping. And if that's the case, then coaches and everyone, including UTR, is going to figure that out when this is all over. But if you're upset because it's dropping and you don't think you're going to get into school, like, it may just be a performance thing as well.
Right.
So,
well, UTRs are dropping because tournaments are dropping off players' records. So
right,
let's just be clear on that.
Okay,
It's not because you're becoming a worse tennis player and somebody else is becoming better. It's just the way their algorithm works. It looks at the last 12 months. And if you haven't, if you played 5 tournaments this time of year a year ago, and you're not playing those this year because they aren't existing, then those results are dropping off and your UTR is going to drop. It's a number. It's not reflective in this point in time. UTR is not a true reflection of your level of play. When tournaments are going as usual and you're playing all the time, UTR has always said all it is a snapshot of how a given player looks in comparison to the rest of the field in a given moment. But I think we have to, like you're saying, we have to throw all that out right now. And
it's
Denise,
not even important right now.
So 2 people are commenting. One's asking, is UTR even that useful? And the other's saying, I think that parents understand that UTR is not the end all be all, but it is part of the package. And in a data centric age, it's an important piece of the puzzle. I agree, but right now, all of that stuff is irrelevant. We can't focus on data when we're not out there playing and training.
Exactly. If there's no matches going on, yeah. So is UTR that useful? Right now, no, because there's no tournaments, as you just mentioned. In when things are running, is it useful? Of course it's useful. It's useful like any other stat is useful. So when you're watching a football game or a basketball game, I have to refer to other sports because I want people to understand.
I don't know anything about any other sport, so.
I'll try to. If you can figure out what I'm saying, then everyone else hopefully can. So let's just take basketball, like whether it's basketball, baseball, football, those 3 sports. If you're looking at stats, batting average in baseball, okay? In baseball, an amazing batting average is 400 plus, like unbelievable, right? So if your batting average is a certain batting average, that's just telling you how many balls, how many times you get on base versus not, right? And so if that batting average is very high versus lower, then it's going to show how good of a player you are, right? In terms of batting. Right. But it doesn't tell you everything, because if you're a baseball player, you also want to see what size is he, what position does he play, what type of attributes does that player have, are they fast, are they slow, do they, all those things. And that's exactly what we do with a sport like tennis. So you look at a UTR and you say, okay, here's a range of where this person's level is. Now let me look deeper into this player. That's how coaches scout and recruit. So of course it's useful. It's useful as an initial, guide. Because you cannot tell me that you're a 9 UTR, but you should be a 12, or you're a 6 and you should be a 9. That's like saying I should be playing in the major leagues, like baseball, but I'm actually not even playing in like AAA or AA, or I'm not playing in any of the leagues just under it. I'm actually just at the amateur league. So you have several steps to go through. I think that's where the disconnect comes in tennis.
Yeah. So Charlotte asked what your opinion is about turning pro after high school or going to college. And it's a little off base for this discussion because we're really focused on how recruiting needs to be looking right now during this epidemic. But you want to quickly answer that one?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it's good to just talk tennis too. We can lighten up the mood a little bit.
Sure.
So yeah, sure. High school going to pros. I have a very simple opinion on this. If you're good enough to play pro and you're basically a top 200 plus player in the world and you're able to make some money doing it, then you're going to go pro. If not, you're going to go play college. You're going to go play college. And if you go play college and you end up dominating in college, the way some of my friends have, the Todd Whittams of the world, the John Isners, the Kevin Andersons, the Jesse Levines, and so on, then you're going to go and play and dominate and probably be playing some futures and challengers and stuff like that. And you will work your way into the top 200, 100. And as soon as that transition happens, you will become a pro. If you are going to go to not be at that level, then pro is not even a discussion. And I hate to break the news to people, but I'm a very blunt and very honest person. But so if you make it there, which I say, hey, everyone has a chance. You may not do it in year one. We saw Isner play all 4 years. We saw Anderson play all 4 years. Many other players, Stevie Johnson, and they've gone on. But if you're good enough, you'll make it. If not, don't even worry about it right now. Just worry about step number 2. Just take it baby steps. Don't think too far in advance. It's just going to confuse you.
Yeah, I agree. And I will say, I mean, going pro requires a huge financial commitment too. So you better make sure you have the money. Either, you have family support, or you have sponsors in line, or, you have community support. Somebody has to foot the bill for you to turn pro. You're not paid to go play tennis just because you say you want to be a professional tennis player like you are in a team sport, right? So it's expensive.
It is. Honestly, Lisa, I just hate people. I hate that people spend money when, they have to be a lot more self-aware and understand the business better. So I do watch families out there that take their kid to become a pro. And they're like, if there's a ladder and there's steps on the ladder, and there's 20 steps on that ladder, and the 20th step is to be at Wimbledon and win the tournament. I mean, a lot of these people are between step 1 and 5. And when you're that far away, your opportunity is to go to college and to get an education, because the reality, unfortunately, is that you probably won't make it pro. But if you want to give yourself a chance to become a pro, then these universities that you're going to are going to give you the best platform. A, you're not going to end up spending all of your money. B, you're going to have a huge team behind you and a coach and a support staff and facilities and games and matches against good competition. And then you're also going to, give yourself that platform to take it and rise to the next level. So that's really your best opportunity. If you're going to go out there and just use family's money, your own money, etc., and you're so far away and you're so far down that ladder, you're really going to struggle to get up there. I really believe that.
So Charlotte asks a follow-up: if you go pro and then want a college scholarship, is there a way to defer college entry? And here's the thing, Charlotte, you can't take more than $10,000 of prize money, because then you lose your amateur status, which makes you ineligible to play college tennis. Also, there's a 6-month rule. You have to matriculate within 6 months of graduating high school. That could change with all of this, though, Tarek, don't you think?
Yeah, actually, the prize money has changed a little bit already.
Okay.
The amount of money that you can take, because there's a lot of kids that are playing at the top, D1 level, Texas, Arizona State, etc., where they're taking those kids to futures and so on. Mm-hmm. So that changed a little bit, but nevertheless, that doesn't really change your answer there. The second part that you said, aside the money, was the ruling.
The 6-month rule, yeah.
Yeah, so let's be clear on that. In Division 1, you have 6 months after you graduate, the day you graduate from high school, to continue playing competitively before your clock will start. So let's say that you graduate, let's just say end of June, and you have 6 months up until December. That means that in January, if you play 1 or more competitive matches, you will automatically lose a year of eligibility. But here's the kicker, is that you can still take 1 entire year off and go to a Division 1 school and not lose eligibility, provided that you didn't play past that 6 months. The only thing is that if you go past that 6 months, it's significantly difficult, unless you've made a deal with a D1 school in advance. It's very difficult for you to sit there for 6 months and not play any tournaments. Coaches don't really like that. You won't like that. It's not a good way unless you're in a situation where you got injured, or the coach just says, look, I have this opportunity. You're going to be rusty, but whatever, we're going to do it.
And that said, that's where NAIA schools come into the conversation, right? Because NAIA schools don't fall under those same rules. And you can be a professional player for however long, you can be whatever age, and you can join an NAIA tennis team and play and compete on that team, right?
Well, they have added some additional rules. It's not an unlimited length of time anymore. They do have, you can go away from the game, you can play competitive matches, but it's not a long-term thing anymore. And they are eliminating the ability of somebody who goes on, maybe plays the tour for 3 to 5 years, comes back in their late 20s, mid to late 20s, and wants to go to school. That's no longer an option for people. The real, she's asking like, yeah, if you can really defer the college entry. Not really. That's really the answer here is not really. If you want to go away for a year, you can come back and play D2. If you want to go, you can come back and play D3, but then your eligibility clock starts to run. And even in NAIA, they've really eliminated those what they call a disproportionate advantage to some of these universities, because there's historically been universities that will take those players all the time. That's a good situation for those people that played pro for a while, and all of a sudden they got an amazing team and they're just kicking the crap out of everybody else, and that's not really that fun.
Yeah, well, we see that with Georgia Gwinnett College, right? They've won the national championship on the men's and women's side. I don't know how many times now. I've lost count. Chase, if you're tuning in, you can chime in here and let us know how many championship rings y'all have. But they're beating D1 teams too. But anyway, Denise is asking if we can discuss the reality of being a pro, not a Rafa or a Coco, but the reality at the low level. And she's saying parents and students really need to go into this with their eyes open. And I think we touched on it a bit. I mean, first of all, they're saying it costs between $100,000 and $150,000 a year to be out on the tour.
Yeah, and that's at like bare minimum, not staying at any nice hotels and eating well and all that stuff. I'm talking bare bones, shoestring budget, and hopefully getting some support of people letting you stay at their houses and so on while you go and try to be on the tour. Yeah, the Rafas, the Cocos, you name it, the celebrities, the ones we hear about, the ones we know about. There's a big discrepancy, and you could call it in pro sports, pro tennis, sorry, that it's kind of like there's a first class and there's a third class. There really isn't a second class, or for very many players, unless they're getting other sponsorships and endorsements from their countries. So for example, if you're Kei Nishikori and you're from Japan, he's an amazing player, but even if he wasn't, I think he'd get a lot of opportunity because of the market over there. For those players that are struggling to make it into the top 25, top 50, it's difficult for them. I think anybody outside the top 100 really struggles on a daily basis, and especially like this situation right now.
Right.
How are these pro players paying their bills and practicing and being set up? I think a lot of those pros are shut down. I've got a lot of friends that have played on the tour that haven't made the top 100, and I have friends that have been in the top 100, top 50, and it's really night and day. It's the reality is that it's a very, very, very tough road, and most people don't end up making it.
Right. And I mean, for those interested in reading some of these stories, Noah Rubin started Behind the Racket, and he's got some great stories that he's been sharing over the last year or so of players that, like you're talking about, the third class, and third class, because they are not third class people by any stretch. They are great human beings, but they haven't broken through, in terms of their ranking and their ability to earn money as a tennis player. And it's tough out there. So anything else? What have we missed? I feel like we've we've
covered a lot. I think the coronavirus thing here is the big message is players need to continue as if the world's going to open up tomorrow. There's not a chance to take a breather. At the same time, it's a chance to take advantage of of the online situation that you have, the access to coaches that you may have, and the ability to prepare yourself. But it is a day-by-day situation. We will start to see what happens. I don't think it's a good idea to speculate too much. I hear, as always, everyone likes to chat and discuss ideas, and that's all fine. But I wouldn't take anything to heart unless it's actually written. And even when the NCAA comes out, the big message here is when I read that release that they sent out on Monday, they, the reality is the NCAA is going to play the good, the good person, the good organization. They're going to say, look, everyone's granted that year of eligibility. We're going to give them that year back for the spring semester sports. Anybody who played winter, you had a long enough season, you're not going to get the rest of it back. But they have put the onus on the universities. And where we're going to start to figure things out, and this has not been released yet, but as these universities figure out budgets, as they start figuring out what they want to do with their teams, it's going to start to unfold. We're going to start to see which tennis programs are going to survive, which tennis programs are going to get discontinued, which tennis programs are going to stay the same, which ones are going to get more funding, which programs are going to have more opportunities to bring student athletes in with lower test scores and grades, which ones are going to stay the same, which ones are going to actually increase. There's going to be every single situation is going to start to unfold. And my answer is this is no different than the way we normally do recruiting. People ask me all the time, what is the answer to this and that question? And I say there is no cookie cutter model when it comes to recruiting. You have to navigate. There's a reason why we call it navigating the recruiting process, is you literally have to navigate it. Every year, every situation, every university has something different that they offer to each player, depending on your situation, your needs and wants, financially, etc. And the only way to get answers is to contact those individual universities, be in touch with the coaches, and figure out what they're going to do for you. And this is the same thing that's going to happen with the coronavirus, is once this starts to unfold and the players that are 2020s now that still need to commit, they're in conversations with these coaches, they will start to get answers. The 2021s, the 2022s, everything's going to start to happen. The only thing that I do think is going to happen is I think it's going to be a massive change in the sports recruiting world, as well as the NCAA and how these schools operate. We will see some large changes. What they're going to be to the full extent, we don't know, but it's going to be out there and we should be prepared, and the competition's going to grow. But as I talked to Coach Dick Gould, former coach at Stanford the other day, he just said that's life. It is what it is. Embrace the competition.
And embrace the challenge, right? I mean, this is a time to see what you're made of and how well you handle the insecurity of not knowing what's going to happen tomorrow. And we're all in that same boat, right? Nobody has a crystal ball, as we said, and all we can do is stay informed, which is one of the reasons we're doing this morning. I want to encourage everybody, if you're on Twitter, make sure you're following the NCAA and the NCAA Eligibility Center, because both of those Twitter accounts are putting out timely information. Then you have to take what they put out and you have to talk to people like Tarek to make heads or tails of it and understand what it means. And then you have to go to the college coaches that you are recruiting with and find out their specific particulars in terms of their budget impact, their team impact, and what's happening in your particular situation. And one thing you said, Tarek, that I thought was really important for people to understand is this is an individual navigational journey, and it's even individual within a family. If you have multiple kids who are trying to play college sports, each one of your child's experiences is going to be different. There may be some crossover, but the bottom line is the coaches are looking at the individual player, not at the family, and circumstances change. So even though you go through it with one kid doesn't necessarily mean you're on track to do the exact same thing with your next kid. Every experience is individual. So I think this is kind of throwing that in our faces and making us really come to terms with the fact that we have to embrace this process. Our kids have to take ownership of it. They have to take initiative and reach out to these coaches. They have to make sure their online profiles are up to date, that they have good, solid information and video up there. Doesn't mean you have to pay a lot of money to have videos done. Take your iPhone, film yourself hitting against your basement wall. Coaches love seeing that stuff right now. They want to see what kids are doing at home to stay ready to compete for them once all of this craziness is behind us.
Absolutely. I actually was talking to my buddy, Coach Matt Hill, is at Arizona State, coaches the men's side. And we were chatting, and I even asked him, I've been talking to a lot of coaches, and so have you, and so on. And that's why I think we can become good resources for everyone. And that's why we're sharing our knowledge. We want to help people. He said, send me some videos of you training.
Yeah.
And, and so that, as you said, everyone's journey is different coaches too. I think that's an important other piece is your journey is different. Every coach's and university's journey is different too, of how they're going to handle the recruiting process and what their recruiting timelines are and their budgets and so on. So if you're not going to get a hold of 5 or 10 coaches, it could be for a various number of reasons, but you will get a hold of other coaches, and you will eventually get answers as you go through this recruiting process. So don't get discouraged either and be like, oh, nobody's doing this or no one's checking this out. I get that a lot. It's like, look, everyone's got their own agenda and they're working things out. Also be very sensitive that there are some coaches out there that I've spoken to that are actually dealing with coronavirus.
Right. I was getting ready to say that they're either dealing themselves. Yeah.
Family members that have it or other things. Like I got 3 kids at home, for example. You have kids and stuff. We have other things going on. Be sensitive at the same time. We do have opportunities. We do have time to talk to people. And this is an opportunity. I really like what you said, Lisa. And I want to say that you are an amazing resource as well for all these families out there. Because you do this every day. You do this the way I do. You may not be running it, the same way some other businesses do, because I think that your mandate is to make sure that everybody gets the best experience. And I feel like that's why you and I connect. I'm in the business for the same reason. For me, it's not how much money I make, it's how many lives I impact and how many people I can help. You have your story about your children and why you decided to do this. I had my reasons too, which was, how I went through the recruiting process and how I saw all my friends go through it. And I figured there's got to be a better way. So if we can help those people, we will continue to provide that information. The NCAA also, so you have a section on your page, the NCAA has their section, the NAIA has their section as well. And we are providing content daily. So there's an unlimited number of resources for these people to go out to, more now than ever.
Yeah, for sure. So Tarek, if people want to get a hold of you outside of this conversation, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, so I just launched our text messaging platform, which I thought would be a cool idea because so many people want to engage, right? And unfortunately, I run a large company and I'm a CEO, and I don't have the ability to get back to everybody right away. So I launched a text messaging platform. I'm going to be the person who doesn't know the number right off the bat, but I'll get it for you in a second. And people can text me on that platform. A team and I can answer there. They can also go online and send us an email at contact@imrecruitable.com. My team and I can respond to you guys. You can also hit us up on my social channels at Tarek Merchant 17. Again, my team and myself are monitoring that all the time. So there's a number of ways you can get in touch with us. I do encourage everybody who doesn't have a free recruiting profile to build that. And as you said, Lisa, now's a great time to add to that resume and connect with coaches. I think that anybody who doesn't have a subscription with Parenting Aces too, now is the perfect time to get a subscription and consume the content that you're sharing, because we do want to know what's going on. You do need to know what's happening. The same way we're watching CNN, we have to start following the people that are involved in this. I am giving insider information on what college coaches are giving on these types of discussions and interviews, and I know you're doing the same. Mm-hmm. That is where people are going to get the most amount of value, I believe, is figuring out what the different schools are doing. We may not be able to give you names and certain things, but we can definitely point you in the right direction and tell you what they're saying. Absolutely.
And thanks to you, we launched a text messaging platform too. And like you, I have to go look at what my phone number is, but hang on, I'll tell you.
Yeah, And
which is terrible.
I'm looking mine up as we speak right now.
Okay, so ours is, and then you can give yours. Ours is 949-607-86. Excuse me, 949-607-8765. I can't even read this morning. Let me say it one more time. 949-607-8765, and it's on all of our platforms, including our website, parentingaces.com. So if you didn't write it down, you can just go on parentingaces.com and get it, or look on our bio on all our social, and it's there as well. And we're also going to try and push stuff out via text message, because I think everybody's email inbox is just getting flooded. I know every gym I've ever set foot in my entire life is emailing me updates daily, and I appreciate it, but it gets a little overwhelming. So I think this text platform is a nice option for that. Tarek, did you find your number?
Yeah, I did. I think I just stopped my Instagram video by accident.
Uh-oh.
That's okay. People got the most of it. 305-928-5615. 305-928-5615. So yeah, great place where I think people can engage with us and get messages out quick. We also going to send updates through there, as I know you will, Lisa.
Yep.
And then, you won't miss it in your inbox. So I know everybody's getting blasted with everything right now.
Absolutely. Well, Tarek, I think this has been really useful. Thank you for taking time to do this with us. And I think we need to maybe check in, in another week or so and talk about maybe doing another one of these, because I suspect we'll have a lot more information at that time.
Totally. And if in the meantime, if people have questions for us, maybe, if there's enough engagement, we can jump back on and do a live Q&A, and maybe even bring people in if they'd like to do that. So
that'd be great.
I appreciate your time, and I like discussing this with you. And I think the message is just stay safe and healthy, and
home.
And at home. That's right.
Yes.
Don't send us any videos of yourself out there training unless it's in your backyard, or Roger Federer against his wall like he's been doing, or Djokovic who's at his pool or something, hitting balls that I heard. So yeah, don't do that. We want everyone to stay safe, healthy. We want to make sure we get over this quickly so we can get back to the tournaments and all the events that we all love.
Yeah. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Take care.